Hey y'all, it's West Virginia History with Mrs. B, and one of the things I love the most in this world are the Cincinnati Reds. I am a die-hard Cincinnati Reds fan. I was born a Cincinnati Reds fan. I will die a Cincinnati Reds fan. And so on July 8th, 2023, when my husband and I were watching the Reds, like we do pretty much every day during baseball season, we watched Elly De La Cruz, the rookie in the 2023 season. He ran 3 bases and scored a run in 2 pitches. And I looked at my husband as we were sitting on the couch watching this game, and I said, has anyone ever done this before? And he loves sports statistics, so he started digging, and he said, well, yeah, about over 100 years ago, a guy named Greasy Neale did it. And I went, Greasy Neale? And so Dave, because he knew a little bit of history already because he is a sports nerd, told me, he said, well, you ought to know him, honey. He used to coach at your alma mater, which is West Virginia Wesleyan. And so that's why we're here today. We want to tell you the story about Greasy Neale and pay our respects to him here in his hometown of Parkersburg and at the cemetery. So stay tuned. We're going to teach you all about Greasy Neale, how he got his name, and why Greasy Neale is the only person in human history to do all the things that he accomplished in athletics. Hey y'all, my name is Adina Barnett Miller, but I'm known to my students as Mrs. B. I've been passionate about West Virginia history for as long as I can remember, but my mom would tell you it all started when I was 3 years old and she bought me a West Virginia counties puzzle at Gino's Pizza. I've taught history in Ripley, West Virginia for over 20 years now, and I'm an adjunct professor who teaches college West Virginia history to high school students. Please join me for West Virginia History with Mrs. B, a field trip across the Mountain State to walk in the footsteps of those who came before us. Alfred Earl Greasy Neale was born in Parkersburg, West Virginia in 1891, and he has such an interesting history, and his history actually gets a start right there behind us at Parkersburg High School. Greasy was a super talented athlete. He played football, played baseball, played basketball. But after his freshman year of high school, he had to drop out of school to help put food on the table for his family. He's going to get to come back to school after 2 years at Parkersburg High School, and they didn't have a coach for the football team. So not only is Greasy going to play on the team, but he's also going to be the coach for the team. He's going to be a high schooler who's the coach for the team. And so because West Virginia Wesleyan was so impressed by him when he graduated from Parkersburg High School, which is right up there, he is going to be recruited and given a football scholarship at West Virginia Wesleyan. And so he is not only going to play at Wesleyan, he's going to help coach at Wesleyan, but he's also going to play basketball at Wesleyan and graduate from Wesleyan. And he also is going to play baseball in the summer. He'll start playing minor league ball, moving up in the ranks in minor league ball, and so by the time he's finished at Wesleyan, he is going to be playing professional baseball for the Cincinnati Reds. So some things you should know about Greasy: he's going to have several years of playing baseball for the Cincinnati Reds, and the 2 things that you should definitely remember about him is, one, on September the 15th, 1919, he is going to steal 3 bases successfully and make it home in a single inning. The next person to do that, of course, as we said earlier, is Elly De La Cruz in 2023. So it's going to be over 100 years that goes by before that happens again. The other thing you should know about Greasy's time with the Cincinnati Reds is Greasy was on their World Series team, and he is going to play on the World Series team that wins the World Series in 1919. However, the 1919 World Series is the most infamous World Series in Major League Baseball history. If you know anything, like a little bit about baseball, you probably have heard of the Black Sox scandal, where members of the Chicago White Sox team basically were paid off by bookies and bettors to rig the World Series. And so this game actually goes down. I think it's a 7-game World Series, and the Reds do end up winning it. Greasy swore up and down for the rest of his life that he didn't think that the White Sox threw it. That maybe they tried to throw the first game, but they were in it for all the other games. So he's going to play for the Reds a few more seasons after that. That 1919 team, they don't make it back to the World Series. And he's playing, you know, in the off season, he's playing Major League Football for Canton and for Ironton, Ohio teams. He actually played for Jim Thorpe at Canton. And then he's going to find his love for coaching. He was coaching when he was a teenager, and so he was a great coach. And so he's going to spend time coaching at West Virginia Wesleyan. By the way, West Virginia Wesleyan will beat West Virginia University when Greasy is coaching. And then he'll move from West Virginia Wesleyan to go and coach at Washington and Jefferson College in Washington, PA. And so it's there that he has the perfect season, and because of that perfect season, his team's going to be invited out to California to play in the Rose Bowl. Yes, Washington and Jefferson College is invited to play in the Rose Bowl by UCLA. And that game, UCLA was supposed to win by, you know, like the bettors said that they were going to win by 2 touchdowns, and Greasy and Washington and Jefferson held them to a 0-0 score after 4 quarters of football. So there was no winner, but there was no loser either. So Greasy is going to play, his team's going to play in a Rose Bowl. He is going to continue coaching. At one point, he does coach at West Virginia University. He'll be recruited to coach for Yale University. By the way, Yale, they didn't like the nickname Greasy, but he said, listen, I've had it since I was a kid. He told the story about he got his nickname as a kid because there was a boy here in Parkersburg that lived kind of like Huck Finn, and he called him Dirty Neck. And then the kid called him Greasy because he worked in a steel mill to help support his family, and the nickname stuck for the rest of his life. So after coaching at Yale, he's going to move up to the big leagues, and he's going to start coaching in the NFL, and he's going to spend 10 years of his life coaching for the Philadelphia Eagles, and he is going to win back-to-back NFL championships in 1948 and 1949. Unfortunately, that 50 season, the team's going to basically split the season. I think they're going to go 5-5, and then they give him the can. So Greasy is the only person in human history to win a World Series, to play in a Rose Bowl, have his team play in a Rose Bowl, to win 2 NFL championships, and he's in the College Football Hall of Fame, and he is in the NFL Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. So he was inducted into both of those before he passed away in 1973. He actually passed away in Florida, but they will bring his body home and they will bury him here, really in a simple marked grave in the Parkersburg Memorial Gardens. You know, I love stories that I don't know, and stories that inspire me, you know, especially people like Greasy, who came from so little here in West Virginia. Like he didn't have a lot. He had to quit high school to be able to help support his family, and he was able to go back. But he not only found a love for sport, but he found a love for coaching, you know, and as a teacher, I can really connect with that, because that's, you know, something that I found a connection to at a very early age, you know, working with younger children. And so he will give his life to athletics. He will give his life to, you know, coaching and supporting and mentoring the players who came after him. Thinking about this video, I think it's kind of a shame he's not in the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame. So if anybody in Cincinnati is watching this, he's in the College Football Hall of Fame. He's in the NFL Hall of Fame. I'd love to see him get inducted into the Cincinnati Reds Hall of Fame there in Cincinnati. If you would like to come and pay your respects to Greasy, because, you know, as someone who was he's one of the best athletes in West Virginia history, but so many people don't even know his name or have heard about him because he played so long ago. If you want to come here, this is Parkersburg Memorial Gardens, just to give you the perspective of where we are. Right there's the Hampton Inn off of 14. You're going to take the road right before you get to the Hampton Inn and come up here. And then if you keep panning around, that big wall back there, that's Parkersburg High School. That is the back of their football complex. Right here, that's what used to be St. Joe's Hospital. And then here on the other side, that's the Belpre Toll Bridge. So that gives you, and we're right in front of Texas Roadhouse. I mean, how many times have I've driven past this place, and I've never been here till today. So I hope that you learned a little bit, that you think that Greasy's a pretty cool dude like I do. He's just, you know, inspired me, made me so excited to know, one, there's a West Virginian that played for the Cincinnati Reds, for my team, you know, my family team. My great-grandparents listened to the Cincinnati Reds on the radio almost 100 years ago, so they could have been listening to Greasy playing, and I think that's really, really cool. So I hope that you learned something, and you now know Greasy Neale, and you'll come to Parkersburg to say your respects as well.
Can I add one thing?
Absolutely.
Actually, two things really quickly. Greasy briefly was traded to the Philadelphia Phillies, I think in 1921.
Well, they didn't trade him.
But they got him back.
Yeah, they didn't trade him.
In that deal, they got Rixey, who was one of the Reds' best pitchers during the 1920s.
Yeah,
so,
it was a $60,000 deal, and the Reds said no, we're not going to release him, and so he ended up making $6,000 that season, and they only played him like 30 games.
And the other thing I wanted to point out is, you know, the quick research I did, managed to get it one inning before John Sadak said it on the television broadcast. And you just losing your mind finding out, A, the guy's from West Virginia.
He's from Parkersburg.
And coached football at Wesleyan.
I mean, what a small world that this guy that held this record for over 100 years was a Parkersburg boy. I've driven past his grave, you know, countless times a year my entire life, because I've been coming past here to go to the Parkersburg Mall my entire life, and not until today did we get to come here. So I hope that other Reds fans will come and pay their respects to Greasy. Like we said, this cemetery is pretty easy to find as long as you know what you're looking for. There is also this headstone here for the family. It says Neil Griffith, and that will help you find them as well. So this is for the family plot that's right here. So we're gonna sign off and go Reds. Thanks y'all for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to West Virginia History with Mrs. B on both Facebook and YouTube.